Welcome back to another episode of the Pursuit Zone Adventure Travel Podcast. I am your host, Paul Schmid, and I interview explorers from around the globe to bring you their exciting stories. These are people that dream big, break out of their comfort zones, and take on ambitious pursuits. This is episode 166 with William Shears. A couple of months ago, I guess you could say I became obsessed with the idea of getting a motorcycle and just riding it around, going on motorcycle adventures everywhere and anywhere. And in that process, I've watched far too many YouTube videos, and I came across one in particular, though, that I really enjoyed, and it was made by today's guest, William, about a motorcycle adventure in Vietnam. So I invited him on the show to tell us more about the story. If you want to get in touch, you can send me an email at paul@thepursuitzone.com or leave me a voice message at speakpipe.com/thepursuitzone. And now, let me introduce William. Having never ridden a motorcycle, William Shears traveled to Vietnam to begin a roughly 1,200-mile motorbike adventure from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh. He bought a second-hand 110cc Honda he called Black Rose and set off on the Ho Chi Minh Highway with a camera to capture the journey. You'll find it on YouTube in a video titled How to Motorbike Vietnam. And you can learn more about William at his website, williamshears.co.uk. William Shears, welcome to the Pursuit Zone.
Hi, thank you very much for having me on. It's great to have a chat with you.
Hey, William, before you started this Vietnam adventure, what were you doing?
So when I was in Vietnam, I was actually working for a travel company, making them some videos, and I was traveling around Asia, making them a few videos around about. And while I was away, I thought, well, I had like a month where I didn't have much up to, and I was like, well, I want to do my own project. So that's where I thought, well, why not do my own like Vietnam motorbike journey that I'd always wanted to do. I'd heard so much about people talking about this journey that you can do riding from the top to the bottom, and I was like, I really want to do this. When I found out I had this month free, I was like, I have to do it, and that's kind of how it came about. I was in my brain that I really wanted to do it for a long time, but it wasn't until like I was actually there that I realized, oh yeah, I possibly can do it, because I think I met someone out there who had also done the motorbike journey, and they said, oh, it's completely feasible. And at the time it was quite scary because it wasn't that popular, and I think now it is getting really, really popular, which is awesome to hear. But at the time I did it, it wasn't, and so it was kind of like stepping into the unknown, really, and you were sort of like, how do I get this bike, how do I do this and stuff, and it wasn't very like paved, if that makes sense.
The company that you were working for, how did you go about getting that job?
So I was 17 at the time of when I found out that I was going to be doing this job. Basically, I won this competition, this travel filming competition, and these guys said, well, why don't you come along and film with, like, make these films for us? And they sort of like had these key destinations around Asia that they wanted filmed, and I wanted to have a year before I go to university, and so I thought, well, this is the perfect opportunity to do that. What a great chance. So that's kind of how it came about, like a few emails and sort of, I guess, a bit of luck as well.
So did you have any time to do any planning, or was it just like spur of the moment, let's go? How did that kind of play out?
Oh, so it was a good year of planning of my long trip in a way. So like it wasn't like all the time, but on and off, sort of sending emails to this travel company of like pictures of like where I was going to be going and like how a video could be made about that destination and stuff. So we sort of had quite a few like Skype conversations about that. But like really for me, while I wanted to make these travel videos for this travel company and it was cool, I really wanted to make stuff for my own YouTube channel. And that's kind of how I came about making like this motorbike video.
So I'm curious about when you're in Vietnam and you have this month off, do you have, I mean, is it immediately, oh man, I got to make this happen now? Or do you have any time to sort of kind of plan out how you're going to go about it? Because in the video, you think about, okay, you have to make some decisions. Where do you start and all this stuff?
So in the video, I don't show is probably how terrified I am before I even start. And actually, there's probably a 15-minute video where I literally talk to the I'm talking to the camera, and I didn't put it in this edit. But and I'm talking about how genuinely scared I am. And I remember being absolutely petrified by this idea of doing this thing that there was something in my brain really making me want to do this journey, and I didn't know what it was, didn't know why I wanted to do it, but I just knew I really had to do it. So it was like kind of this sort of, I had this week of sort of being like, do I buy this bike or do I not buy this bike? Do I buy it? Do I not? And keep on going from either side. And I was like, at one point, like in the week, I was like, I'm not going to do it. And then I'd meet someone who's like, I'm selling my bike. And sort of like, then someone was like, do you really, and then lots of people want to sell their bikes. So once someone realizes you're a bit tempted to do it, they kind of persuaded me to buy their motorbike from them. And that was kind of how the persuasion happened, really. It was sort of like, I really wanted to do it, but I actually needed that push. And I think it was the guy who I brought my motorbike from was an absolute great guy. And he sort of told me, like, this is what you need to do to, like, do the journey, have a good time and not, like, get scared and stuff. So, yeah.
Why do you think you were so scared? Was it just because you had never ridden a motorbike before?
Why was I scared? I guess that was one element. I guess another big reason why I was scared is like, it's risky, and it's not just like, I'm quite confident at learning how to do something. So it wasn't so much the fact that I didn't know like the basics of how to ride a motorbike. I knew that I could learn that on some quiet roads and stuff. But these roads are very different to roads anywhere else in the world. They're sort of busy. A lot of the driving on there by these lorry drivers often are, a lot of them are driving quite irresponsibly. Statistically, there's a lot more higher chance in sort of like, definitely I know in Vietnam, for example, that there's a higher chance of having, of like people having accidents and dying on the road and fatalities. And for me, that was quite a scary realization that here I am, I'm going to go into this and I'm going to try and do it as safely as possible. I'm going to make sure I have all the safe gear. But there was still that element of being like, something could happen. And when you have that realization, I think that's scary.
So did the trip take 30 days?
Yeah, well, so in all, the trip from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh took 30 days, yes. But I took a lot of time. Like, I didn't want to be dangerous, and I really wanted to really enjoy it. So like I know people who've done this trip in sort of 14 days, 13 days, and yeah, they've had the time of their life doing it, but it's been very like day after day, whereas I really wanted to have time where I could spend a few days in a place or a week in a place. And like, I'm really pleased I did that. I'm really pleased I had that time for that.
What kind of budget did you have for this adventure?
No, none. My budget was very limited. I think I worked out that in total for the whole project, it cost me $600. That obviously excludes flights, but $600 includes everything from accommodation, food, and also the bike, because you can buy the bike and then you sell it back. For a month's journey, like thinking about it, like I've just been away now, and like if I could have just spent $600, that would have been amazing. But no.
The process for getting a bike, you mentioned in the video that
Yes.
you're starting in Hanoi, which is where most people end, so you're already at an advantage. Did you have to go through a long process to find a bike that you deemed as suitable?
Okay, so I think I was very lucky with my bike, and I think quite often I went very much, first of all, because I bought it from another traveller who I had spent a few days with, and as I was saying, he was the guy who ended up persuading me to do the journey. Also, I had that trust in the guy. So compared to, like, I didn't really know what to look in. Now I would know to make sure that the spark plug is okay and stuff. But at that time, I really didn't have a clue. So it was very much sort of reliant on the trust of other backpackers. And this guy was really helpful. He's called AJ. And he was like, look, this is one problem you might have with the bike, but don't worry, this is how you sort it out. I think I only tried 2 bikes. One bike was absolutely rubbish. And then that was when I was a bit like, do I really want to do this? And then once I tried Black Rose, I sort of had a drive with it, sort of got used to it. And I was like, this is so comfortable. And I felt comfortable on it. And I was really lucky because Black Rose didn't break down one single time. Like, there might have been like the occasional glitch, but in general, there was hardly any breakdowns.
Why is it called Black Rose?
Good question. That was the name of the bike when I got it, and I hope that is still the name of Black Rose. We actually had a Facebook group of all the riders who've driven Black Rose, because basically these bikes get driven from one end to the other end, back and forth every month. So they're going up and down and they're changing parts and stuff. So I'd love to know if Black Rose is still called Black Rose, but I don't know. She definitely suited the name Black Rose though.
So you didn't have any motorbike experience, but you bought a bike. It looks like it has a clutch. I mean, was that the only option? Was to buy a manual, or there's semi-automatics, or how?
You can get automatics, but like for me, I'm far more comfortable driving. I know for myself, I'm far more comfortable driving a manual car. So for me, driving a manual bike, a automatic would feel a bit uncomfortable. I don't really like driving things that are automatic, but you can get automatic scooters. Quite a few people have them. But in general, I'd stick to the manual. And it's also it's more cool and looks more cool.
Well, you had the manual gearbox experience from driving, so that helps anyway to know kind of just how it works. Exactly,
yeah. It's completely like, I had that experience before, and like, it's not entirely true to say I haven't driven a motorbike before. I hadn't driven a motorbike before, but on like such roads, we had friends who have had the chance to drive a bike, and you can learn how to drive a manual motorbike, I think, quite quickly. Like, learning the gears is very natural. So once you know that, I think it's okay.
How challenging was it to navigate your way from top to bottom, and how did you go about doing that? Did you use any sort of apps?
Yeah, Google Maps and a SIM card is all you need now, pretty much all around the world. Yeah, use Google Maps, which worked really well. Never had a problem using it every day. Like, would just load my route. I'd look on the route and I'd have a look at where I want to go. Is there some cool things to see on the route? Like, I'd always like to choose the quieter roads as well. And Google Maps gives you all that info.
In the video, you mentioned what you call the Vietnamese highway code, and there's 3 rules.
Okay, yeah.
So rule 1 is use the horn. What do
They don't look at their mirrors in Vietnam. It's very much sound driving as well. So it's like, who's got the bigger horn is better as well. And so as long as you use your horn, you'll be fine. If you use your mirrors, then you won't be fine. And it's just once you get used to that type of driving, you get really used to it, and it's all very comfortable and stuff. But using a horn is the best way, and make sure your horn works. That your horn isn't. If your horn's not working, then you're a little bit stuck. I had that once when my battery went flat, and so the horn wasn't working, and it was just a bit sketchy. But yeah, horn is really important.
Rule 2: ride with confidence.
Ride with confidence. Yeah, don't doubt it when you're gonna overtake. If you're gonna overtake someone, just overtake them, because you just have to. If you're doubting, if you're swerving around and stuff, and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to come back, then you can find yourself in some really sketchy situations. Whereas if you're confident, the drivers know what you're doing, they're all confident as well. So you've got to be confident with the roads.
Rule 3, if it's bigger than you, it will win.
Absolutely. Yeah. As a motorbiker, the trucks don't really see you. They see you as little ants, and you need to make sure that you're okay, making sure that you respect them, I think, is the key there. They don't have much patience. And as long as you respect the bigger things, then you'll be fine.
And part of the video, you're talking about you enjoy meeting other travelers along the way. Yeah. And for part of the journey, I think you maybe struggled to meet other travelers, and you had to adjust to that. So, I mean, how did that all work out throughout your trip? Were you able to find times where you could meet and have conversations with other travelers?
I think I found the motorbike journey a very isolating time at points, partly because it was scary for me. So I wasn't confident about talking to people about how I felt about the whole situation. And I also didn't, at that time, this might sound silly, and I agree, but in a way didn't want to drive with people who were going to drive a lot faster than me, and I wanted to be going at my own pace. I wanted to make sure that I was fully confident. So for the first few days, and there was a 2-day period where I did drive with 2 others, and that was really, really awesome. And I ended up making really good friends with them. But it was really hard to find people who wanted to drive at the same speed. And I think in the future, I would really suggest not doing a motorbike journey like that on your own. I think it's stupid, it's dangerous, and you should do it with a friend, but do it with someone who's a good friend of yours, or someone who you know, and someone who you can really trust. Because if you just do it on your own and something happens to you, goodness knows, anything could happen, and that's quite scary.
How'd you keep yourself motivated out there? Did you have any issues with that from day to day?
What type of motivation? The motivation to do the whole journey, or what? Sorry.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, if you're talking a little bit about being lonely from time to time, I guess their thoughts could creep in about, I should just quit and, whatever.
I don't think it was ever an element of that I want to quit because I'm lonely. That wasn't. The element that I wanted to quit was that I was scared that this is just stupid and it's irresponsible, which it was. I think that was probably this motivational element. There's the bit in the film where I just pause, and really I'm generally absolutely terrified there. I don't know what to do. I'm in a lovely city called Hoi An, and I'm sat there and I'm just I don't know how to deal with this situation. What's happening? And there's a good 4 days where I don't film, and I'm just sat in this lovely Vietnamese city just thinking, do I continue or do I not continue? A few weeks after that, I was about to meet my mum, and I think that was what's on the top of my mind, is that I want to meet my mum, and I don't want to not meet her. She's coming out to meet me out while I'm away, and if something happened to me, that would be really, really awful. And I think that's sort of the motivation, maybe, is sort of worried about what could happen if something wrong did go wrong.
You had a great quote in this part of the film where you're talking about the loneliness and you say being alone develops a sense of freedom within you. Really love that quote.
Yeah, I think it does. I think in a way it gives you that space to think about what you want to do. If you're on your own, you have that chance to be this is what I want to do. And at that time I was 18, and at the age of 18, you're not too sure what you want to do with your life as well. And having that time to just while I'm on my own, dealing with some really challenging things, not being comfortable with this idea of doing this really scary thing, and all of these things sort of just followed me going, oh, but so what do I want to do? And it really, I think, really helped me to give focus to things that I want to do. People are oh, it's really bad to be lonely, and people are very judgmental when you do things on your own. But I think it can be really great and really helpful. I just say do things on your own when it's not so important that you're with someone. I think with such a motorbike journey, it's way safer to do it with someone else. Yeah.
How was your experience overall in Vietnam?
I loved it. It's one of the most amazing countries in the world. The people are amazing. The views are incredible. And the food is outstanding. There's this amazing thing you can get, which is called pho, which is basically a noodle soup. And it's delicious. Basically, they put all of these really cool spices in it, and you have it with sort of a bit of meat in it as well. Or you can have tofu. And it's so delicious. I really recommend trying that. If you're ever in Vietnam, try the pho. Is
that where you were eating every day?
I ate that. I used to have that for breakfast and as we're talking about it, it makes me want to have it now. Might have to cook some for dinner tonight. It's really hard to do though, because it's so flavoursome, and those old ladies who cook it for you, they really know how to cook it well. And I've never been able to cook such good pho.
You're living in England, is that true?
Yeah. I'm at the moment in my final year of university, so
no Vietnamese food shops nearby?
There is one actually. I haven't tried it, so maybe I should try it. There's one in my hometown, which is very good, but I haven't tried the Vietnamese here. So maybe after this Skype conversation, I'll go and have one for dinner tonight. I'll get a takeout.
Did you have any favorite cities or towns that you went through in your adventure?
I loved Hanoi. I think Hanoi was very good. And something that I don't show in the video, partly because that's when I'm learning to ride a motorbike, is I actually went up north as well to a place called Sapa. And Sapa is absolutely beautiful. It's a mountainous area of Vietnam, and it's really gorgeous. Probably one of my pet hates about, not my pet hate, my annoyances about the film is I didn't actually show that in the film, but I was too terrified when I was learning to drive my bike. So that's kind of why it never really got put in there, and I kept it simple about Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh. But Sapa is really gorgeous. There's some really cool mountains, and if you're into motorbike driving and you want some lovely mountain passes, Sapa's the place to go.
So what was your favorite part of the trip?
Finishing? No, I think in general, it was the freedom of doing something that I dreamt of doing and making it a reality. And it made me realize actually that whenever I have that dream or something that I want to do, I can do it. And I shouldn't listen to people who are like, no, you can't do that. That's not allowed. And I think that whole Vietnam motorbike trip sort of ties that together for me. It's taught me that that's the biggest lesson, is that if I've got that dream or something that I want to do, I just have to go and do it. And I don't need to listen to people. I just need to get out, think, how do you make that possible, and enact that.
What was your least favorite part?
Probably being on Highway 1. That was pretty terrifying with the motorbike. There's some really scary GoPro video of me coming out, and I remember this one time I come out past this lorry and there's this other big lorry coming, and it's coming around this bend, and I literally have 1 second to work out what I need to do before something happens, and that was what led to me being really shaken up. Probably that's one of the most terrifying things that's ever happened to me in my life. So yeah, that's really, I think when things like that happen, it really puts things into perspective as well. It really makes you value things, and it makes you think about what you really want to do. And is that really driving along this busy road? And for me, it was no. And so then after that, I was like, I'm never going to drive on busy roads. And I always made sure that even if it meant that I'd have to do a route that would take however many more kilometers, I'd avoid busy roads. And I hated that risky element of it, I think. But then I also loved that because that's kind of why I did it.
The Highway 1 versus the Ho Chi Minh Highway. And
yeah.
I can imagine Highway 1, just massive, big trucks, lots of traffic, high speeds. What was your experience on the Ho Chi Minh Highway? How did that kind of compare?
So I must say that this was 3 years ago. And so obviously things have changed. So I don't completely know what the Ho Chi Minh Highway is like. It might have got bigger, it might have got busier. But in general, I found the Ho Chi Minh Highway an absolute gem to drive along. It was quiet. That was at the time I was doing it. So I don't know if it's quiet anymore. If you're doing your journey, do look at some blogs online and have a look. I'd recommend. But for me, it was quiet, and actually the best roads were when I didn't even do the Ho Chi Minh Highway. It was when I was like, oh, I see that I can still go along this road and I'll get to the place that I want to go. And it'd be like a little off-track road. And yeah, it'd be a bumpy road, but it'd be really awesome. And you'd be having these most amazing views. You drive through these villages of people who would be all wanting to say hi to you. And there was one of my favorite memories actually of the whole journey was that I was at this, I was doing that. I was driving past a road, or one of these side roads, and I was on this ridge and I come past this village, and I need a coffee. So in Vietnam, they do the best coffee ever. They do it with condensed milk. It's delicious. And so what happens is this guy comes over to me and he's got this plastic bottle. I'm like, no, I know what's going to happen. Basically, what's in this plastic bottle is some extreme liquor of some kind. And he was he puts this down on the table, and then he gets 2 shot glasses and puts them down. And I'm like, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? So I get up, and he doesn't speak a single word of English. So I get Google Translate up on my phone, and we start having a conversation. And then the Google Translate quickly comes into like being like, you need to drink this. And I was like, okay, I'll have one. I'll have one shot. And slowly he was like, he keeps on pouring it, and it's clear that we're going to have to drink until the whole bottle is empty. This is at the point that I realised that I'm going to have to spend the night in this town, because obviously not going to drive under any influence of alcohol. So I have to stop what I'm doing. And it was an absolute great day, though, because it finished midday, ended up having this 5-hour chat with this guy, falling asleep in this little Vietnamese coffee shop with the most incredible view, and made some really good friends. So it was sort of the spontaneity. And that's why I suggest like doing like the smaller routes, because you can sometimes get away from sort of the bigger roads, because you can end up having stories like that. And those are really the stories that are invaluable.
What did you underestimate most, once you got to the end, looking back?
Definitely before even starting, and I know I've kept on coming back to it, and I'm sorry if it's bored you, is I didn't realise how scared I'd get of doing the journey. I think that was probably my biggest underestimate, is like, I didn't realise how worried I'd find it, and I think if I knew how scared I would have got because of it, I wouldn't have ever taken that journey or done it.
Yeah, that's a little surprising. You would kind of imagine that, once you make it out of the crowded city on this motorbike that you've just learned to drive, then everything will be great.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like it keeps them coming back, and like you get into a few days in, and you suddenly have another scary moment. And I think that that's hard when you realize like you're taking yourself to the limit that you're not too sure if you're comfortable with, but you don't really have the option, and you just carry on. And I don't know, I think it's really like, it can be a really healthy thing to have like this sort of scary element, and I think for me it's been really healthy. But I'd never want people to go about doing that motorbike journey and not realize, or any motorbike journey, because I've done a few now, and I think lots of times people run into it and they're like, I'm just going to do it. The key thing is you need to understand the risk that you're taking, and make sure that you're not just doing it because you're like, oh, I want it for the picture or the photo or something, because I think that that's where it can start being like, why are you doing it? And for me, it was very much I wanted to do it because it was this dream and this passion, and like I had to make that a reality. And if that's your reason, then go for it. But make sure that you understand that it is really risky, and make sure that you know what to do if something does go wrong. But yeah, that's a bit of a hard answer.
So
not sure if I
have some contingency plans is what I heard in there.
Yeah, completely.
What video equipment did you have on this adventure?
What I had a little GF6, a GoPro, and a Gorilla Pod. And I like to tell people that I was using the Gorilla Pod before Casey Neistat was using it. So if you know Casey Neistat, he has a Gorilla Pod. Well, like everyone's like, oh, that's very Casey to film like that. But I was using one way before him. So I like to get that out there. But no, I was using a Gorilla Pod with just this like little camera, a mirrorless camera. Had two lenses. I think it was like a 16 to 42 and a 42 to 140, which worked 170, which worked really well and allowed me to shoot everything. That was sort of how it all worked. Yeah. And now my projects are so much more complicated. So like looking at the basic setup for that is quite funny actually for me.
Well, how long have you been involved in videography, and how did you get interested in it?
The Vietnam stuff is like, because that was like 4 years ago, I think. So that was like very much my basics of me starting to love it. I'd done a bit of work sort of for, I think, my sixth form college in uni before my year off, and sort of that's how I'd managed to, and then I'd sort of filmed some holidays, and that's how I managed to get in contact with that travel competition. Really from that was like how I started to build this interest, and then it ended up sort of just filming my travels with this travel company. And that's when I was like, I'm going to make my own video, and I want to make it different to any other travel video that's online. And I think I didn't. I hope I managed to do that. I still haven't seen anyone who's got a travel video like that. So, and I've got a few more coming. One in the next week as well, which is very exciting. So yeah.
Cool. Can't wait to see it. Yeah, congratulations on putting that video out there. I loved it.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I remember when I uploaded it, and I was like, I told my sister, and I said, look, I don't know what will happen, but I hope. And like, my sister is like she's sort of like, she tells me if something's bad, and I love her for that, because she is the most honest human being in the world. And she watches it, and she's like, I don't think there's anything more you can do to it. And I remember, and like, the only thing that there is there's one spelling error in that video. But I think like over the next year, I've got some really exciting videos coming out as well on my YouTube channel, which is exciting because it's kind of been a quiet period while I've been at university, but I've just had a very exciting summer with some really exciting videos that have been made. So they're in production at the moment, and they'll be coming out over the course of the next few months.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about those briefly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, before we get to that, though, I was looking through your CV online, and I see you did this 3-month tuk-tuk around Europe documentary. What was that? What was that all about?
Completely. I haven't mentioned that, have I? So a great friend of mine, Callum, and I, we spent our last summer in an Indian tuk-tuk driving around Europe, making a documentary, and that is actually pretty much finalized. So we're just working with Amazon Prime to get that up on Amazon, which is also really exciting because obviously it's going to go on Amazon, and like that's awesome. But basically that's a documentary about this amazing guy called Callum who drives an Indian tuk-tuk around Europe. You should have a chat with him on your podcast, your show, absolutely, because I think some of his stories are wonderful, and he's cycled around the world and stuff. So working with him was really awesome. And we ended up doing some crazy things. We ended up doing a supercar film shoot with this tuk-tuk, and it was all mad. We ended up having to be a pseudo-professional production company and finding a guy to film us and stuff. And like, it all got completely out of hand, but it was so fun and so wonderful. And that was, so that was last summer. I summed that up very briefly, but that's a documentary that's coming out very, very soon, it's a very exciting documentary as well. So that's sort of like, for us, we're dealing with Brexit, and so that's why this happened.
How are we going to find out, or how are you going to get the word out that this is going to be available?
So it'll be tweeted. We've got some press releases that'll be coming out about it as well. And it'll also be going on Facebook. So it'll be shared and everything. So all of that info will be going around. So if you want to, make sure you're following me on Twitter, William Shears 1, because I'll make sure that it's tweeted about. And there'll be a lot of promo about it. But it'll be going on Amazon Prime. We're still deciding on the final title. So that's why I can't give you the title name, but it'll probably be give it sort of in the next 3 months. It will be out there. So
all right, cool. I'll check out Callum. Yeah, it could be a good guest.
Yeah, I must put you in contact with Callum, and he'd love to have a chat with you as well. So
yeah, please do. All right, yeah, you had mentioned to me when we were chatting via email, riding a motorcycle around Ladakh for 8 days, and that's.
I think when you sent me your email of that you wanted to invite me on your podcast, I think I was halfway on my motorbike journey at that point, which I thought was kind of ironic because here you were asking me about one of my last ones. And yes, I just spent a week in Ladakh. They have some of the highest motorbike passes in the world. And if you are a motorcycle fanatic, you'll know that Ladakh is sort of the mecca of motorcyclists around the world. And we ended up driving to a place called Turtuk, which is on the border of Pakistan, and it's a real wonderful story. That is a really special story in a way, because it's cool, and I think driving in the Himalayas is like something for me that I've always wanted to do, and I'm a big lover of mountains. So you're driving along these amazing passes, and you've got these incredible views, and it's really awesome.
Were you on a Royal Enfield?
Of course, a Royal Enfield Classic, and absolute joy to ride. So much fun. Royal Enfields are, I think for a lot of people that is sort of to just be able to drive on Royal Enfields is a lot of fun. They make such a great noise. They're sort of grumbling and stuff, and you're driving along these valleys and you've got this roaring sound, and talking about it, I want to be there now. It's so
So how did you come across that bike? Did you rent it?
Yeah, we rented those ones. We didn't buy them because we only had a week to do that. So yeah, not as much time as in the past.
You also mentioned this DIY safari. What is it? Because when I think safari, I think Africa. So what is a DIY safari?
This was actually with my friend Callum. We were in Kenya a week ago, and we did a normal safari. We had lots of fun. But what happened was at the safari, we wanted to do our own safari. So we ended up renting a car and ended up going to this most incredible place in the world. It was like this house that was built out of trees and stuff, and it was a friend of ours, and we ended up sort of doing this DIY safari, but everything went wrong on it. Sort of the Jeep that we had broke down right by where there were lions, so we ended up having to push this Jeep out of to get it to safety, and then the car that we'd hired also ended up breaking down, so we broke 2 cars, nearly got eaten by lions, but it was a real adventure, I guess you could say, from that. That's the video that I'm currently editing, actually, and is coming out very soon. And that's going to be on my YouTube channel in the next week. So
maybe in about the time this podcast goes live, then that video might be out.
Yes. I hope it will be. We're sorting out some nice animation for it. So once that's done, it'll be up on YouTube. It's been a great summer, and I'm very excited to get some more videos up on my YouTube channel.
William, what's next for you?
What's next for me? Finishing my last year at university is first of all, and then what I really want to get into actually is doing more motorbike guide videos in a way. I'd love to get some more how-to videos, because I think there are lots of motorbike routes around the world, but they're not always clear on how to do the journey. And I'd love to do a series of more videos of how to do a journey. So there's some amazing motorbike journeys I'd really like to do, which are sort of a week long, and go out there, film it, and make a series for it. So that's kind of where I'd love to head to.
Yeah, I think there's room in the motorbike adventure space on YouTube for some good original content. I mean, there's lots of motorcycle videos, but
they're all men who are 40 years old, and they all have their helmet cams, and that's all you can see. And I think something different is needed, and something that's actually where you've got stories happening. So that's what I'd love to do over the next after I'm at the moment looking for a hopeful a commission to be able to get that possible, which would be really cool. But that's in the works.
William, how can people contact you if they want to learn more?
If you want to learn more, you can send me an email. Send it to just my normal email, which is hello@williamshears.com, and I'll try and get back to you as quickly as possible. Or you can contact me through Facebook, and my number is also on my website, which is www.williamshears.co.uk, and that is all the info on how to get in contact with me.
Okay, William Shears, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about your adventure.
Absolute pleasure to talk to you as well. It's sometimes so nice to remember what you've been up to, and making these journeys and stuff. And I'll make sure that I'll send you a link as well of the video as well that is about to be uploaded, because it's great talking to you. Yes.
Yeah, cool. Can't wait for the link. Appreciate it. Hey, good luck in your last year at university.
Thank you.
Thanks again for listening. If you want to support the show, there are a few ways you can do so. One, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to the podcast. You can like the show or follow along with the show on Facebook or Twitter at The Pursuit Zone. And you can also leave a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes or Spotify. This show was recorded on October 1st, 2018. And for the show notes and more great adventure travel podcasts, visit thepursuitzone.com.